So we're working on reporting category 6. Reporting category 6 is about rational functions. So first thing we're going to talk about is rational function. Rational function is y equals 1 over x. And the graph looks like this. That's a rational function. A polynomial is the sum or difference of monomials. An example of a polynomial would be like 3x to the 4th plus 2x squared minus x plus 7. That's a polynomial. Inverse variation is y equals k over x. That's the formula, y equals k over x. And if we solve that for k, k equals y times x. And remember that k stands for constant of variation. It's constant for all of the numbers. Direct variation is y equals kx. And there we solve for k, k equals y over x. So those two formulas for inverse and direct variation, they are not on your formula chart, so they are something that you need to memorize. Okay, so then, oh, and I skipped asymptote. Asymptote is a line that your graph gets really close to but never crosses. Okay, so problem number 1. You need to find all of the intercepts of the graph of the function f of x equals 5 over x plus 1. So f of x equals 5 over x plus 1. And we have to find all the intercepts. So what we can do here is use our calculator. So I'm going to use our calculator to help us. I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in the function 5 over x plus 1. And I'm looking for intercepts. So x-intercepts are where the y is 0, y-intercepts are where the x is 0. So I'm going to go to my table, and I can see when x is 0, there's an error message. So what that means is there is no y-intercept. When x is 0, there's no y-intercept because there's an error message there. And so if I look at the graph, I can see that it's getting close to it, but it never crosses it. So it's getting close to that y-axis, but it's never crossing it. So there is no y-intercept. Now x-intercepts are where y is 0. So I'm going to look in my table and see if I can find a place where y is 0. Oh, there's a place. -5 and 0. So -5 and 0 is one of my intercepts. Now I've got an answer choice here of -5 and 0 and 0 and 1. But if I look back at my table, 0, 1 wasn't an option. So it had to be choice C. That's your only intercept there. Number 2 says use the table to the left to solve the inequality. The inequality is not on your paper. The inequality is 1 over x squared is less than or equal to 1. So we're going to use our table to answer that. So I want where it is less than or equal to 1. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find the places where it's less than or equal to 1. It is less than or equal to 1 in this section. It is less than or equal to 1 in this section. So it is in both of those sections except where x is 0. So what that means is if I look at my table, it's from negative infinity all the way to that negative 1. And then it's from 1 on to positive infinity. So it's answer choice D. Because it's everywhere except x equals 0. Everywhere except for x equals 0 is that inequality true. And that's what this choice D says. From negative infinity to negative 1 with, that union means with, 1 to positive infinity. So you look at the table and you find the places where that inequality is true. And you can do that same thing using your calculator. You just put that into y equals and you can see the same table. Number 3, you need to state the range of the function, and the function is y equals x minus 2 over x plus 4. X minus 2 over x plus 4. So again, I'm going to use my calculator to help us. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in x minus 2, but I have to put that in parentheses, divided by x plus 4. And I'm going to look at my graph. So it looks like there's an asymptote. There's a horizontal asymptote here somewhere. It's not at 0 because the graph crosses the x-axis. So it looks like there's an asymptote at 1 or 2 maybe. So let's look at our table. And so if I'm looking at my y values are getting closer and closer to what number? They're getting closer and closer, it looks like, to 1. But it doesn't look like it's ever going to cross 1. If I keep scrolling down, it's getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, but it's not crossing it. So which one of these says everything but 1? Looks like answer C. So let's look at number 4. On number 4, the two functions were left off, so I'm going to rewrite them so you can see it a little bit better, hopefully. It's f of x equals 3 over x plus 1, and g of x equals 3, parentheses, x minus 1 over x squared minus 1. So in this kind of problem, it's a rational function. The first thing we want to do is factor. And I can factor this g of x1. I can factor that bottom into x plus 1, x minus 1. So I factor that, and then what do I see that can happen? I see these x minus 1s cancel. So that g of x is really just 3 over x plus 1. When those x minus 1s cancel, what does that create in our graph? When factors cancel, that creates a hole. So g of x has a hole. That hole is at x equals positive 1. So if we look at our answer choices, do they intersect at that 1? No, because that one has a hole, so they can't intersect there because there's a hole. They do not intersect. Well, that's not true, because they're the same thing, except g of x has a hole there. Is that what C says? Yes. So we factored that second one, and I canceled, and when I canceled, that created a hole. Then after those canceled, I have the exact same graph, except I have a hole there. So you have to make sure you have that hole. So number 5, the volume of gas varies inversely as the pressure P in a container. If the volume of a gas is 200 cc's when the pressure is 1.6 liters per square centimeter, find the volume to the nearest tenth when the pressure is 2.8 liters per square centimeter. So that 2.8 is what was left off of your paper. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. The volume varies inversely as the pressure. That means volume equals K over P. Volume equals K over P. Then it says the volume is 200 when the pressure is 1.6. So So I'm going to make that be 200 equals k over 1.6, and I'm going to solve for k. So to solve for k, 200 times 1.6 is 320. So k equals 320. Now that I know k, I can use that formula again. V equals k over p. And I know that my k is 320. And I want this time the pressure to be 2.8. So I have V equals 320 divided by 2.8. So if I put that in my calculator, 320 divided by 2.8, and the problem says round to the nearest tenth, so that rounded to the nearest tenth would be 114.3. So the volume equals 114.3. C. And there's your answer. So there's inversely is k over x, y equals k over x. Directly is y equals k times x. So you need to keep those two formulas straight. That's very important. So reporting category 6 is variation and rationals.